Knowledge on Cinema. I'm Victor Omoayo, and today's film is Collateral, starring Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx, and Jada Pinkett-Smith, directed by Michael Mann, written by Stuart Beattie, and released in 2004. Collateral is centered on two men, Vincent, a nihilistic hitman who forces his unwilling chauffeur, a taxicab driver named Max, to shuttle him across nighttime Los Angeles as he executes his marks, one stop at a time. What sets Michael Mann's crime drama apart from similar films is that it pits two sets of personal philosophies against each other, improvisation versus routine, and nihilism versus idealism. Vincent embraces spontaneity, as evidenced in one way by his affinity for jazz music. Max, on the other hand, personifies professional and personal stagnation. Taking chances isn't something that is within Max's nature, or at least that is a belief that he internalizes. Following the opening scenes of Collateral, where we see Vincent arrive in LAX, the film brings us to Max, polishing his red and yellow cab for his night shift. After a few fares, he picks up a woman who also has business of her own. The passenger is Annie Farrell, a federal prosecutor who is gearing up for a high-profile case. She dictates to Max what route to take, and he replies with a faster route suggestion of his own. They make a bet. If Max is wrong, Annie's ride is on the house. What is presented as a casual conversation between both characters is rather crucial in defining who Max actually is. Max instinctively knows what streets will bring him and his latest fare in the quickest time possible. He accepts the bet because he surmises that there is no risk involved, so he's content in his own comfort. Along the way, Max shares his dream goal of starting his own limousine company while temporarily paying the bills with his current job. Temporarily, however, turns out to be 12 years. He has shelved his goal for so long that it became a distant, vague fantasy, almost as if it were designed solely to impress others and nothing more. For Max, change and progress is merely fun to talk about, and not really something to actually enact. When they finally arrive at their destination, Annie reveals her fears and self-doubts regarding her upcoming case. In response, Max gives her his own object of zen, a photograph of the Maldives, which he uses as a daydream escape from the tedium of his job. They share a lingering look before she exits the cab, but Max regrettably misses his cue to capitalize. Fortunately for him, Annie returns and gives him her business card, much to his surprise. Considering how the rest of the film unfolds, the moment Max passes his island photo to Annie serves as his first step towards dealing with the squandering of his own potential, and most significantly, the yielding of his safety net. Vincent's appearance strongly defines his personality and worldview. His attire, a nondescript gray business suit with a white button-down shirt and black shoes, enables him to blend into any crowd. As a contract killer, the last thing he wants is to be memorable. Vincent also operates in a moral and philosophical shade of gray. He is a nihilist. For him, life has no inherent meaning or grand purpose. In his view, this eliminates any moral consequence in his line of work. He sees absolutely no value in a 9-to-5 lifestyle with barbecues and ball games, and even less in a life marred with unachieved ambitions. The latter is expressed in the scene where Vincent and Max have a relaxed chat with Daniel, the owner of a jazz nightclub. Daniel shares a story about the time he met Miles Davis in his youth, and what could have been for him if he had continued to pursue his musical goals. We get the sense that a part of Vincent is fascinated by the jazzman's tale, but his polite grin barely veils his derision and misanthropy. Curiously, the camera lingers on Vincent's face for a moment after he kills the jazzman. Although he is a hardened killer, Vincent appears to be reeling from what he just did. Just before he pulled the trigger, Vincent revealed a small bit of his own knowledge of jazz, briefly sharing some common ground with another human being. Given his line of work and who he is, it appears that even a tiny amount of genuine human connection would compromise his entrenched belief in the meaninglessness of life. Later on, Vincent's cavalier facade subtly reveals very slight instances of vulnerability when he recalls his bleak upbringing to Max, although he tells it in a sarcastic manner in order to further disturb the hapless cab driver. When Max replies how sorry he is to hear his tale, a twinge of bitterness is felt behind Vincent's nonchalantly terse reply, "No, you're not." Despite Vincent's entrenched nihilism, he does see something about Max that somewhat intrigues him. Consider the part where Max commits an act so irrational that it should have sealed his own fate. Vincent, in the perfect position to kill his hired driver, instead seeks to test Max's mettle even further in a subsequent nerve-wracking sequence when Max, posing as Vincent, is forced to meet with Felix, the crime boss, played by Javier Bardem. Now, I found it a little strange that Felix wasn't perplexed at all at Max's average appearance. It's obvious that Max is worlds apart from the menacing and intimidating killers that suspiciously eyeball him, but perhaps that's the point. As I said earlier, as a hitman, Vincent would not want to make himself memorable in any way. In a moment of palpable fear, Max channels Vincent and even threatens one of the armed goons, improvising on the spot an excuse as to why he had to come to see Felix. This moment for Max reveals what he could be truly capable of if only he applied the same courage to take risks, instead of coasting his life away at his dead-end job. Later on, at the start of the final act of the film, Max and Vincent's inner philosophies come to a head. After they escape from a nightclub shootout, Max openly criticizes his passenger's amorality, while Vincent defensively and correctly deconstructs the pathetic mediocrity that is Max's entire life. Close-ups of their faces indicate that the gears are turning in their minds as they weigh each other's words. As Max mentally confronts his self-deception, the camera becomes less stable and more erratic as he begins to speed up faster and faster throughout the city's streets, running red lights as he becomes angrier at the harsh but honest assessment of his life by the so-called sociopath in his back seat. In the film's final act, Max has no more room to rationalize away his indecisiveness. Like never before, he must apply action to his words. In the final analysis, Collateral ranks above numerous rank-and-file crime dramas with its thoughtful approach to its philosophical themes. And thank you for tuning in. I'm Victor Omoayo, and you can find more video essays of mine on my V Knowledge channel.